Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. In another video, I transformed a Dollar Tree vinyl bag and scarf and a few other materials into this crossbody bag. I feel like it would look more finished if it had a bag tag on it, a little metal tag here, maybe with some vinyl around it. But when I made this, I didn't have any bag tags. Now I've since ordered some, and what I'd like to do is find the best way to put a logo on the bag tag so that I can use it when I make future bags. So I'd like to try a few different methods and see which one works out best. Let's go have some fun. These are the bag tags that I purchased from AliExpress, and I'll include a link below in case they're still available. I bought a box of 20 because I plan to make a lot of mistakes since this is the first time I've ever done this. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about safety. I am doing this outdoors. It is well ventilated, of course. I am wearing a respirator and I am wearing 2 pairs of gloves. That ferric chloride that we'll be using for the etching is an acid, and I don't know if you shouldn't inhale it. I'm just going to assume you shouldn't. Now, what I have there is circuit board special paper on which I've printed with a laser printer my resist pattern, which means I've printed where I don't want the ferric chloride to etch away the metal. Now you'll notice that it's just a terrible print, and that's because I was a little nervous about running this paper through my good laser printer, so I ran it through an older laser printer, which needs a new drum and toner. You'll see later in the video I do replace the drum and toner. But for now, because we're just experimenting, I figured the poor print would have to do. So what you do is you heat up the metal. You want to get it to about 350 degrees. And then what we're going to do is press the paper down on the metal. This is an old towel holder, and I thought I would just sort of etch on the back of it. That's the part that goes against the wall, in case I ever want to use it again. So once you get that up to temperature, you press the paper onto the surface. And so I'm not touching it with my bare skin, using these scissors, and then I use a towel to press it in. We want the toner to transfer from the paper to the hot metal surface. And again, that toner is going to prevent the ferric chloride from etching the metal where the toner is. Now once it's cooled, the paper should peel right off, but this surface is a little bit textured, and so I had difficulty. I ended up using a wet towel, and then I was able to get the paper off pretty easily by just rubbing it off with the wet towel. Now once that's off, we could put this in the ferric chloride, but because it's such a bad print, what I decided to do was try other methods of filling in any problems with the resist. So this is a Sharpie. So I'm using a Sharpie, and then I'm also going to try nail polish. And I thought I would experiment and find out which one worked better, or if they both worked equally well. So I'm going to pour the ferric chloride in this plastic bowl. And once again, outside, respirator, 2 pairs of gloves, being very careful. And then I'm going to shake the camera a little, I guess, and then put the metal that I've put the resist on. I guess I'm checking to see if the nail polish is dry. Looks like it is, so we're going to put that in the ferric chloride, and that should eat away at the metal anywhere that we don't have resist. Because the ferric chloride came over the top of that, and that would be the part that would be visible if I used this towel bar again, I covered it up with duct tape. And I was using this toothbrush to try to get the bits of metal that became loose from the ferric chloride off. And then I was using some acetone nail polish remover, but I wasn't able to get the resist off with that, and the etch itself just didn't look good. It didn't look like much had come out. So I just decided to go straight for the bag tag, and I thought that maybe I would sand it. I really didn't know what the problem was with the other etch. And even though I decided to sand it, I didn't know how I was going to get it polished up again when I was all done with this process. But I wanted to see if I could get the etch to work. So again, got that up to about 350 degrees and then pressed the paper on. And we really want good contact. And once that's pressed on well, you just have to wait for it to cool. So you can see it's still 333 degrees, but now we're down to 55, which is probably the ambient temperature. And once it's cooled, the paper peels off pretty easily. This was a relatively smooth surface, except that I had sanded it. And it transferred in most places. You can see that there are a few spots where it didn't transfer well. So I'm definitely going to have to fill that in. And I decided to fill it in with the Sharpie. I didn't use the nail polish. So I filled it in really well with the Sharpie, and I also put duct tape in all the places where I didn't want the metal to be eaten away. And I made a little duct tape handle too. But when I put it in the ferric chloride, I didn't want it to rest on the bottom, and that could have also been a problem with the other etch, is that it was resting on the bottom. And so what I did was I found a piece of wood and I attached my little handle to the piece of wood so that it was above the bottom, so it was suspended in the ferric chloride acid. And I would come back periodically and agitate it and brush it with that little toothbrush. And I left it for a very long time because every time I came back, it didn't look like it had etched very much of the metal away. Maybe because I wasn't agitating it consistently for a long time. I don't know. It did etch the metal away. So I found some better nail polish remover. This is 100% acetone. I don't know what percentage the other one is. And I used that to clean off what was left of the Sharpie and the toner. And you can see that it did etch, but it looks absolutely terrible. It isn't consistent at all. So this is the second method of making a bag tag that I'm going to try. This is Waterslide decal paper. I should mention that I watched a few videos for both of these techniques. So for the etching, I really liked the Craftsman Steady Craftin' video, and I will link that below. And this method I found on a YouTube channel called Charming Cheek, and I will link that as well. So this is Waterslide decal paper. It is clear, and again, it's for a laser printer, and you can see now with the better print, I've replaced the drum and the toner. And now I'm not printing out the reverse any longer. I'm printing out what I actually want to end up on the bag tag. And what you do with this paper is you drop it in water for 30 seconds to 60 seconds. I found 30 seconds worked just fine. And then you put it on the surface where you want the image transferred to, and then you slide the paper backing off of the, I don't know what it is, plasticky clear part. So that works just fine, especially if you can get it in exactly the correct location when you put it down. So there really isn't a correct location for the top of the jar. Now I'm going to try a bag tag, and again drop it in the water for 30 to 60 seconds. And then we pull that out and we try to center it. And we hope the decal stays in place and the paper comes off, and you can see it's not in a good location. Now, the great thing about this is you can just peel it right off if you make a mistake. And if you don't mind wasting a lot of Waterslide paper, you can make as many mistakes as you want and it has no impact on your bag tag. That one's a little bit better. You have to be really careful with these. They can wrinkle up very easily. And the other issue is that you can see the border. So for this one I tried to cut a lot closer to the image, and the package specifically tells you not to do that. And it didn't come out well at all. It ended up distorted. Like, it looks okay there, but then it ended up getting distorted. So this was my next attempt, which was to not get it quite so wet, put it where I want it, and then drop it into the water to finish the process of taking the backing off. So what I'm doing here is, I think, more what you're supposed to do, which is cutting that so that it's the same size as the bag tag. And that way you won't see the border, because the border is on the edge of the bag tag. But the problem is it has those little faux screws, and so the decal is over the faux screws. So here's my final attempt, and this is my own little innovation. And the idea here is, instead of using the Waterslide, and instead of trying to etch, I would use the transfer paper to transfer the toner directly to the bag tag, and then just leave it. So I'm going to be covering this with resin anyway, and since the toner seemed to transfer pretty well, this seemed like a better method. Now the Waterslide, you can either leave it for several days to let it dry, or supposedly you can apply heat. And so I tried applying the heat gun to it, and now I'm heating up the bag tag that I'm going to apply the toner to. Now this is the Waterslide that I applied the heat to, and I'm not sure you can completely tell, but it actually it destroyed some of the Waterslide image, but it was stuck on really well after I did that. I was able to get it off with acetone. And here's the transfer of the toner, and it did transfer pretty well, but I didn't get it on evenly. You can see it's a little crooked. But that comes off with acetone, so again, you can make mistakes and clean them up pretty easily. So to review, here is the horrible etch. Now you get a good up-close look at it. It's just uneven. It's deep in the middle and not on the edges. I think part of the problem is I have no idea what kind of metal this is, so I haven't given up because that's the look I really want. But for now, I'm going to try this other method of transferring the toner and then using UV resin. So I'm going to try to transfer these again, but I was trying to come up with a way to transfer them so that I was more consistently in the center. So I thought I would use these tumbling tower blocks, which come from the Dollar Tree, and make a little box that I could then drop the tag into, and if it's a good enough fit, I thought it will be centered. So we needed a little bit more than the Tumbling Tower blocks. I'm also using these craft sticks and gluing the whole thing together with some super glue, and so making a little frame that I can drop that into, and hopefully then it will be lined up perfectly over the image. Now while that is drying, I'm just going to use the acetone and get all of the pore transfers off of the tags so that I can reuse them. Breaks my heart that that one's not in the middle because it came out so nicely, but there it goes. Okay, so now that that's dry, I'm just going to center it over one of these images on the toner and use this duct tape to hold it down. And now I'm simulating how this is going to work. Pretend I heat it up, and then I take the temperature to make sure it's hot, and then I awkwardly use these needle nose pliers and drop it in there. Here we go. I'm trying to do it quickly so it doesn't cool, but it doesn't fit. So I had to shave out a little bit of the popsicle stick. Now I've got it perfect. Simulate again, it works now. Tape it down again. Heat it for real. Drop it in. Check the temperature. Is it still hot? Yes. Okay, now it's stuck to the paper. Now it's lower than human temperature at least, and the paper peels off very easily. Not perfect, I did fill in a little bit with Sharpie, but it's centered. Okay, so now we're going to use the UV resin kit. I have this UV flashlight and I don't show that on camera. With the UV kit, it comes with this tip. I had to cut a hole in the tip, and honestly that didn't fit on the bottle very well. So I was a little nervous it was going to drop off, and I had to hold it a little bit. But you just squeeze the resin out and then spread it around, and it's pretty thick, it's sticky, so I wasn't worried it was going to roll off the tag. Also, I don't think I show it here, but I used a toothpick to pop any little bubbles, and then I applied the UV light according to the package directions. So you can still see the Waterslide edges on that one. But this is the toner one, and I think that one looks much better. So that is my favorite of all the things that I tried, although the etching wasn't really a contender. And I will try to do the etching again. But that one I think will work. So we did eventually get there. With the toner transfer and UV resin, I did get a bag tag that I can use. And I have actually already put it on a bag, and I can't wait to show you the video where I create that bag because I love how it came out. Now the etching, as we know, did not come out well at all, and that's upside down. But there you go, if you can see that up close, it's just horrible. So if you have suggestions for me, if you saw obvious mistakes I was making, or if you've tried things that worked for you, please include a comment below and let me know how I can do this better. Or if you have other suggestions for how to make tags, I'd love to learn about them. You might be wondering about the logo. I didn't mention that in the video. I drew pages and pages of different logo ideas, and ultimately what I was using to decide what sort of logo I wanted was, first of all, simplicity, because I was hoping to be able to etch it, and I wanted a simple image that I thought I would be able to etch. And also I just liked a sort of a classic look, so that serif M I thought just had a nice classic look. So that's how I picked the logo, but obviously I'm no expert in logo design. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you like this sort of content, please consider subscribing to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.